Hey guys, my name's Trevor.
I'm Vincent.
We're the Anthony and Todd Show. Today we're going to be taking a look at Angélique Kidjo's latest record, Remain in Light. This album came to me from a tweet from NPR that I found out about this. Angélique Kidjo is the undisputed queen of African music. This is my first time listening to any of her records,
which is surprising that I haven't heard any
I'm afraid
work.
that she's been on my radar for a little while. I knew about her, but I never knew about her in the sense of Remain in Light, and now I'm just kicking myself because I wish I would have listened to her earlier releases when they came out.
Yeah.
She is just one of the greatest living divas in world music or in just music in general.
Yeah, she's 2018's, I think Harvard's 2018 resident jazz master, which is the coolest fucking title in the world. But I'm very surprised I haven't heard of any of her work because she seems like a very profound artist or a very well-regarded artist, and especially in world music. And I'm surprised I haven't had any run-ins with her music before. But Trevor sent me the NPR tweet talking about this Remain in Light album concept, which is the concept essentially taking Remain in Light, the Talking Heads album, the Talking Heads classic, their magnum opus of sorts.
1980. I absolutely love Talking Heads, so I can't pass up a Talking Heads project. Basically, Kidjo has teamed up with the producer Jeff Basker, who's worked with people like Rihanna and Kanye and Harry Styles, Bruno Mars, Drake, just top tier names here, and created this cover album, but I struggle to call it a cover album because it is so unique and builds much off of the original project. It is basically a recreation of the original album, but with African roots. And
the Remain in Light had African roots to begin with. It had African polyrhythms. It was very inspired by African and world music.
Yeah.
But now it's just taking it and just making it a full Afro-pop, what it
does is basically just brings everything full circle. And she only picks the best to work with. I just learned that she teamed up with Ezra Koenig of Vampire Weekend for some features, Blood Orange, Tony Allen, the Antipolis horn section, as well as the percussionist for the Black Panther film score. Which I got because I heard a lot of the Talking Gem on here, and I was like, that sounds vaguely familiar. Only selecting the best for this project. And let me just be one of the first to tell you that you absolutely need to listen to this record, whether you like Talking Heads or not. If you like Talking Heads, if you like Remain in Light like I do, I adore that album, then you're going to find a lot to love here because of all the similarities, but of all the differences between the tracks. I like that she did this, or I like this evolution of the track. But even if you don't enjoy Remain in Light or don't enjoy Talking Heads, you're also going to find things to enjoy because it's just not the same project. It is the same, but it's evolved.
There's differences between the two because I think Angélique isn't as passionate as David Byrne, which, don't get me wrong, I think her vocals are way more solid than David Byrne's, because David Byrne's also is really moany, kind of nasally, but he's super passionate, and that's what he makes up for it with. But Angélique is way more solid, way established, and this record is 1,000 times more catchy than Remain in Light is. I like Remain in Light, and I think it holds its own when compared to this record, but I think this album is 1,000 times more catchier. Every little hook or little outro is made to be out to be this catchy masterpiece. There's several moments on there where I'm not only have my breath taken away by the production, because I think the production on here is utterly brilliant. All the instruments used I think are phenomenal, but I think just lyrically is very different. Even though it uses the same lyrics,
it brings new meaning to them.
It's made in different styles. It is made in a different tone or different chords. It's very strange.
I don't think that the two meanings can be explicitly compared. And what you're saying about the album being catchier than the original Remain in Light, I have to agree with to some extent, because to me personally, I feel very torn. I love Remain in Light, but my two favorite tracks off of there, obviously the classic Once in a Lifetime, and then just followed up by one of my all-time favorite unsung tracks of Talking Heads, Houses in Motion. I love that track to pieces. For me, you can't touch the original. I just think that those two originals were so well crafted. You can't beat David Byrne's like gigantic suit.
Yeah.
You can't beat that abstract like just jazz feel and like grooving bass lines of Houses in Motion. But what Kidjo does in this album that sets it way apart for me is making some of these boring moments better. Just infinitely better. Tracks like The Great Curve, I'm not sure I really...
Great Curve is one of my least favorite tracks on Remain in Light.
Me too.
And on this, it's turned to be like my favorite track because it's so productionally exceptional.
I even think that the Overload at the end,
Which is
fake Joy Division cover, the Talking Heads tried to make a Joy Division like track without ever listening to Joy Division.
With only seeing reviews from Unknown Pleasures and crafting a track from those reviews. But on this, I was actually very curious on how she was going to do that, and she just made it fit the rest of the album.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, she didn't like make that fake backstory into her music. She didn't try to like recreate the feeling of a Joy Division track,
which would have been interesting. But
she took the Talking Heads recreation of a Joy Division track and made it her own, which I think is just what she's infinitely like personalizing this album to be who she is, and I just love that. I love everything that she does with this album. Even tracks like I said, you can't beat the original Once in a Lifetime, but she turned her version she turned her version of Once in a Lifetime into a huge party, this huge like island-esque party with steel guitars, a huge brass section, just the loudest brass section.
I hear like occasional like bongos or like talking
drum. Yeah. Just the instrumentation on this is beautiful.
Yeah.
And turns it into a completely different track that I mean, I can't compare the original Once in a Lifetime to her version of Once in a Lifetime. Same with Houses in Motion. It's not as groovy. It's a little more minimalistic here, but I think that her vocals just carry this really, really well.
Has this like weird spoken word part over bass and a synth, which is like very minimum, but it actually works as a solid like production thing. Having woodwinds and brass play the guitar part is just like something really weird that you got like another instrument to play this one instrument's part, especially when you had like guitar on earlier track. I think it's very cool that you did that. I think the lack of the guitar actually makes this one of my favorite tracks.
It really works for her that way.
They have separate instruments playing another instrument, which I think is cool. And it doesn't, the other instruments aren't used as like a filler, they're used to replace, which I think is really cool.
Just, I don't know if there's like a whole lot left for me to say. Kidjo just makes this whole album her own. She reclaims the rock sound that Talking Heads put into the African roots, and just makes it totally her own. This is a huge win for her culture. Just taking moments that I think are great on the original and just making them completely her own, that I can't compare the two.
Yeah.
I think that each of them are totally uniquely their own styles. I think Remain in Light, the original, will hold up as a timeless classic, but I think that Kidjo's cover of the entire album will also hold up as a timeless classic as time goes on.
Yeah.
And the two I don't think they can be compared as a single work. I don't think it can be...
Because they're two separate
I don't think it can be, who did Born Under Punches better? Or, who did Listening Wind better? It's, look at these two vastly different styles of the same track. Yeah. It's like when different people cover like Christmas music, they're easily like comparable. But when people cover like this kind of thing with two completely different styles, you can't compare them at all.
Yeah. Some other tracks I want to mention: Born Under Punches, which straight from the go, Angélique's vocals and this grooving bass line, like, they just give you this sense that this is completely like this is not like a replication of what Talking Heads was doing. It's a completely different genre. Something I always enjoyed by the Talking Heads version is made 1,000 times more catchier. It's just even more of an earworm. Like, I enjoyed like the end bit of that track, but now it's just like phenomenal. It's like, even I enjoyed this version more than the actual version. I hate that you want me to compare that, but I honestly do. Like, I think it's just in the weird glitchy synth part. The only thing I can say bad about this track is there's this Brian Eno-esque synth part on the Talking Heads original version, and it pops up here, but it seems like just the same. Like, it doesn't. I think this is when I got opportunity to like switch it up a bit. Crosseyed and Painless, the woodwind section throughout not only this but the woodwind and brass section on this entire record do like phenomenal job of just keeping up with everything. And I think their inclusion in this album just is what make a lot of the production moments so fantastic. The great curve with the African chant-like vocals set everything to go like 1,000 miles per hour, and I think it's phenomenal. Just to wrap things up, Seen and Not Seen, the spoken word, not only as we mentioned on Houses in Motion, but on this with the backing instrumentation provides such like a grand narrative sense. Like Talking Heads version of this was very sane, like it was in the same like feel in a sense. This provides like a very cinematic feel compared to the rest of the album, which I think is a very cool inclusion. And Listening Wind may be like my least favorite track overall on this project, but I think it's the one that fits Angélique's style the most in this long storytelling sense. I think the synth that is used just kind of like falls flat. It doesn't really fit. I think the percussion is used as solid. I think elements of the production just kind of clash with itself, so it just makes me feel like it's good, but it's just like it could be better. And this is one of the moments I thought was going to be kind of easy for her to do a cover of or attempt to make it her own, because it just seemed right up her alley with this narrative about a person committing an act of terrorism. And you mentioned the Overlord, the fake Joy Division track. The drums have the forefront of all the production, and the bass and the woman are kind of buried in the back. And that's all I say about that. Like, the Overlord's one of my... Overlord and the Great Curve are like two of my least favorite tracks on this side. They're like two of my favorites. I enjoy this album to death. I think this is a very solid project. This is what covers should be, making it your own, and she makes it her own. This isn't like just replicating it like karaoke or replicating it just to
this isn't just
pay
a
homage.
lazy...
This is to make it your own, and it does pay homage, but it also is its own thing. It is world music. It is not like alternative rock or classic rock. It is a completely separate thing.
I think this pays a great respect to the original work, but it just makes it completely her own, and I absolutely love that.
There's so many things to love. Fantastic production, all the elements, whether it's the brass or the woodwind or the talking drum or the percussion that's used throughout, all the different elements, or the fact that Angélique's vocals are just amazing, and she does such a good job. This is such a catchy record, and it does everything else. It does everything it can to make it a super solid release. And I'm really happy that Trevor sent me the NPR link and that we're reviewing this, because it's actually it's one of my favorites of the year so far. I'm feeling a 9 on this.
I will have to do the same.
And it's just a great release. Listen to it. This is a solid record. Just a solid. This is what cover should be. Angélique makes it her own, of such a classic record too. The ability that I'm able to separate the two on two different paths is incredible. That's our review. Angélique Kidjo's Remain in Light. If you want to hear us review more records, there are plenty of reviews on our YouTube channel, or if you just want to hear us talk more about music, we host a weekly podcast called The Anthony and Todd Show, which is on Apple Music and Spotify. If you want to listen to that, links are down below in the description. We meme it up every week, talking about just random stuff and music. If you want to hear us talk about that, again, links down below in the description. I've been Trevor.
I'm Vincent.
Until next time, guys, see you later.
Bye.